when something shows up, whether in work or a relationship or just any experience, honestly, I tend to take it to heart a little bit more than needed, and it it affects me emotionally to the point where I feel physical pain. And anything that I perceive as rejection, whether it's true or not, affects a lot of how I see myself and how I think others view me, which also feeds into that imposter syndrome. And
Hello, Amelia here. What you are about to experience is the first of 3 sessions with an INFP and myself exploring the idea of how to take rejection less personally and dealing with the imposter syndrome doubts. This is a real person with real fears, real doubts, and real pain. And in this session, this very first session, we cover navigating homeschooling challenges, meeting individual needs for both the daughter and the person I'm working with, redefining productivity and self-worth, dealing with rejection, embracing inner child wisdom, trusting yourself after things go wrong, coping with failure, and managing high expectations and overcoming overwhelm, managing anxiety and finding clarity. And how we cover all of this is through the roundtable model. And if you're confused about that, which you probably have never heard of this before, there's a link to the description in the description below, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us your type and what you want to work on, whether topic or question.
I am an INFP, and I would like to talk about imposter syndrome and rejection.
Yep. And tell me more about how that shows up for you, rejection in particular. How do you experience it when something happens?
I when something shows up, whether in work or a relationship or just any experience, honestly, I tend to take it to heart a little bit more than needed, and it it affects me emotionally to the point where I feel physical pain.
Okay.
And with and anything that I perceive as rejection, whether it's true or not, affects a lot of how I see myself and how I think others view me, which also feeds into that imposter syndrome. And the two together are just something I can't get rid of.
Yep. And how long has this been going on for with you?
Oh God. Um, Probably forever, but I've been more aware of it at least in the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. And you said it shows up with work, with relationships. Is there any area of your life that it doesn't show up in?
Hmm, not really. I mean,
Okay.
there's always potential for failure somewhere.
Yes. And what does failure mean to you?
Failure is when I have high expectations for myself to do something and I don't follow through for one reason or the other. Um, I also have ADHD, which is something that has gotten in my way more than once, to where I know I can do things, or it makes me believe I can do more than I can, or I know I can do more than what I can, but it also kind of stops me because my brain, like my chemical imbalance, does not allow me to operate as a normal, typical human being. So there's a lot of blockades, I feel like, in my life regarding to a lot of different things that I'm just now trying to navigate through and understand on what's true and what's not.
Yeah, and that's a good point because the problem with the imposter syndrome and taking failure to mean something than what it is that it means a lot about you, because that might be what you're interpreting it as. Like, when this doesn't happen, it means something about me, and there's nothing wrong with that, because usually there's something going on that has taught you to go like, oh, that outcome equals like something being wrong with me, or like failure is bad, or failure means I'm not good enough, or whatever failure means for you. So there's usually something going on to make you feel like that. And a lot of people feel like that. Even people, very strong leaders, feel like that when there's stuff going on. So it's very real, especially as you get some success under your belt, because then the failures can get a little more
Mm-hmm.
a little more scary. And a little more
Absolutely.
public as well. So what when something happens and you get a quote unquote failure, what is a typical reaction for you, or what's a reaction that you've done recently?
It goes straight to my gut. I feel it in my stomach. It, I feel nauseous. I feel pain. I feel cramps. I
Yeah,
feel a bad headache, and I feel like this internal sense of doom. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind
sure.
of in like my heart throat area where it's just like you don't deserve to live anymore.
Oh,
And
okay.
I just I curl up into fetal position. Sometimes I cry and sometimes I don't, but it's just so loud that I can't ignore it. I can't just walk through it. I can't just brush it off. With time it gets a little better, or I can get distract myself, but it's a very difficult physical feeling that I have not yet figured out how to get rid of.
Yeah, and when you talk about the physical pain, are there any thoughts that you're thinking, or anything that goes on in your mind other than just the gut and then the pain, which that can be challenging to be having thoughts when all of that's going on. And then you said a sense of doom. Any other thoughts that are going on with that, with when you're kind of spiraling down with this?
Mm-hmm. Um, there's always thoughts. My brain does not shut up. Like, the first one is you're never going to be good enough.
Yep.
You know you should have done that better. You know you slacked on this. You know that you should have never taken this project. You know that like this person was probably to blame. I start trying to blame other people's too. um, this would have never happened had you done so and so, or had you called the person like you said you would 3 days ago, or like there's
Yep.
always the blaming piece, but also the why do you even bother piece, because you're never going to get this right
So you feel
with
like
all the other.
yeah. Is there, so there's like a blaming piece, wanting to blame other people, and then there's also of like, you said, what was the last thing that you said?
Like a self-loathing piece, like why do you even bother doing anything anymore? You should just stop. You should be a quitter. Because every time you try something you fail.
Yeah, should be a quitter. So it's like whatever you do, this is like failure is going to be associated with it. So it's just pointing fingers at like, look, here's another example of this. Here's another example of this. Is that what I'm?
Yeah, and it's just never positive. Even though I have a long list of things I have achieved, they never show up at these times. I never remember them.
Yeah, well, the imposter syndrome doesn't want you to. You can't
Yeah.
remember them if it's wanting to show that you're a failure. Um, do you feel like with the not being good enough piece, do you feel like it's something that has to do with like you haven't reached a certain level, you haven't hit enough outcomes, like you're not far enough along, like why are you even trying? Is it something like that or something else?
Um, I think it's that I'm not worthy. Things good things like this don't happen to people like me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like my whole entire life I was given or instilled the thought of productivity equals value. And that's just something I'm now exploring. So actions actions are my love language, for a reason. And I feel like if I don't do enough, or if I am not completing or being productive, that I'm no longer worthy, I have no value. So when some things happen to me that are exciting or some people would celebrate, I don't feel like I deserve to celebrate them because I didn't work hard enough on it, or I didn't um, do it completely, or the fact that I have never completed a college degree or a university or whatnot. Everything I know is self-taught. I don't feel like I've earned the right to know what I'm doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's just why does this come easy to me? Why didn't I work hard for it? And why are people telling me I'm doing a good job when I'm getting rewards or something on something I don't even see value in?
Yeah. Yep. I hear you. So, and that's a beautiful way to express this. So I'm going to share my screen. Um, and this is these letters INFP. This is the round table model for the INFP. All the Myers-Briggs types will have an adult self, an inner parent, a 10-year-old inner child, and a 3-year-old inner child down here. But the feeling, intuition, sensing, and thinking roles are going to be different. So INFPs come from having a feeling and intuition up here. So introverted feeling right here, and then intuition, and the P is can get technical, but so the adult self is what makes you really feel like you. It's what you spend the most time with. It's what how you make decisions. It's what feels good to you, what aligns with your values. And this is what INFPs do really well with, and that's what they spend the majority of their time with. So that's the that's the adult self, inward facing feeling, and then it's the nickname of ethicist if I'll move my mouse here. So this is the adult self. And then
Oh, cool.
the second most used part is the intuition part. And that is all about um, how do I keep exploring what solutions are out there that I haven't found yet? How can I find new information? What other what rocks haven't turned over yet? Like what else is out there? So it really likes to go, it really likes to keep exploring, and it really likes to keep finding new information, new ideas. And it's probably one of those parts that keeps your brain busy because it's like, oh, there's this idea. There's this idea. I could be doing this. I could be doing this. There's this solution that I see to this problem. I was like, that would be really
Mhm.
cool and be really helpful. So that is that part of you. And that's your second most used part. So you're good at it. You're not as good at it as your feeling part, which is right here, your adult self. And those two
Mhm.
parts of you are what really are the most used parts. So they're the parts of you that are able to be most balanced with living an adult life. So that's the feeling and the intuition. Down here at the bottom half of the table, we have the 10-year-old inner child for the INFP. That's the historian. And the historian is all about what have I experienced before, and how can I gather information from what I've experienced before. And the historian,
Mhm.
this 10-year-old inner child role is very black and white. So it's either information is going to be all good or information is going to be all bad that I'm gathering from the past. So a classic example for INFPs, it's like if they're thinking about doing something else and they're going, oh, well, every time I've done this in the past, it's failed. That's that 10-year-old inner child of yours popping up and saying, don't even bother doing that. Let's not even go there. Let's just not do that at all because it's been a failure in the past. So it's not looking at how am I doing things differently? What do I need to do differently? It's all about like, just let's not bother with this. So that you can gather information in black and white terms. And then your 3-year-old inner child here, which is like really it's the part that you use the least out of the feeling, intuition, sensing, and thinking. It's the part that you use the least, so you're least skilled with it, and it's going to be the one that's least likely to be like strong and have adult capabilities. So it really has the capability of a 3-year-old child, which is where this nickname comes from, the 3-year-old inner child. And for INF, that's that executive inner child. That's all about getting stuff done. It's all about what can I achieve, what needs to get done, what needs to be crossed off, what plans need to be created. So if you ever see yourself getting angry and be like, we need a plan, what's the plan? What's going on here? What's the plan? That's that 3-year-old inner child of yours. Probably being stressed because it's like, I need to know a plan. And the rest of you is like, I don't know what to do with this. So when you talk about the productivity equals value, it sounds to me, well, is there a part of you that this sounds like of the 4 different parts?
I mean, all of it is on point and it makes perfect sense. I feel like my inner parent is the loudest right now out of everything. I see exactly where you're saying that inner childs come in, but also I feel like my brain counters it now. Be like, yeah, you say that, but also we do things differently now. So this is very, very interesting to me because I'm always into like self-help and self-exploration, and just anything I can learn more about myself is something that piques my interest. So this is really cool. I've never seen this before.
It's a part of the Myers-Briggs world that can be really applicable. It's like, how do you grow as an INFP? And this is a model to help you keep becoming developmentally more stable, because as a leader, you'll have less fears, you'll have less doubts, you'll have less insecurities. So you're able to think clearer, you're able to be yourself more, you're able to feel better. And then as you're like getting these parts of you wrangled in versus kind of not sure what's going on with these different parts of you.
That makes sense.
So which part of you do you feel is interested in productivity?
Productivity. I feel like the adult self is the one that wants to be productive all the time. It wants to get stuff done, and you know, it just, you can just keep going with it.
Is
the
that
inner parent? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask, is that aligned with like who you are inside? Someone who values that and someone who really enjoys making things happen?
Yes, absolutely. I'd rather start new things than deal with my emotions. So yes.
Nice.
I tend to start a lot of things. Starting new things is much easier for me than continuing them and executing them. I'm really good at planning stuff and organizing and getting things done. I mean, getting them on paper. I am still struggling deeply with follow up and with execution and with accountability. So I would probably be more of a visionary or a thinker, but I am not the integrator. I cannot be the one that's relied upon to continue it to the end.
And that's very
And
common
now that,
with INFPs.
yeah,
You are really good at pioneering and finding those new opportunities, but not so good with
mhm,
like how do I maintain them day to day. And I am the same way. I'm an INFP and I hate daily maintenance stuff of the stuff. I'm like, this drives me nuts. I hate doing this. So you're not the only
same.
person to be experiencing that. Um, so this 3-year-old inner child here, the executive outward thinking, it sounds to me like this part of you is struggling because a struggle or a part that a challenge that this part can have, it's like, I haven't done enough yet, so my value is kind of questionable. And when things crumble down, it can have a really hard time if it's looking for value in the outside world. It's like, I'll be worthy when I achieve X, or I'll be worthy if I have this many properties, or I'll be worthy when I have this many businesses, or I'll be worthy when I hit this thing, or I'll be worthy when I get these partners and we're all aligned and they'll see me as worthy. And when that doesn't happen, and this part is looking for worthiness from others, it can have massive meltdowns because it's like, well, how are these people going to see me? Are they going to see me as a failure? Is it going to feel, or am I going to be like cast aside? Are these people going to even want to be around me? They can be really uncertain and be on really rocky grounds when this outward facing thinking part of you is trying to find your worthiness from other people, or from what you've achieved in the eyes of other people. How does that sound to you?
Right. It sounds right, and it sounds like where I started. My brain wants to counter that now, so I'm guessing there's some growth happening. But right now, I anything that happens, it truly does feel like I'm a fraud by accepting it because of my own self expectations and standards that I think are just way too high.
Okay,
And
got it.
right now, for me right now, failure is me not reaching my goals and my expectations that I set for myself.
Got it.
And when other people tell me, "Oh, yay, good job, you did this and you did that," I'm like, "Yeah, cool, but it's not good enough because I'm supposed to be at this level. Nobody told me I'm supposed to be at this level, but I'm hurting myself by putting extremely high expectations on things and not being able to get there. And I will feel achieved. I will feel like I have achieved what I wanted when I finally reach the freedom of not having to worry about anything anymore. And I know I'm nowhere near that. So therefore, I don't feel like I'm allowed to celebrate anything because I haven't even gotten there yet. There's a lot of personal stuff going on in my life where on the outside it seems like I might be successful or might be happy or might be all these things, and I'm internally dying, and nobody knows about that because I don't share it, but I know about it, and therefore I cannot accept anything less than being a fraud because I feel like I'm deceiving people.
Yeah, so what I'm
And
hearing
it's
is are you struggling with like being okay in the present moment?
I'm
Like
struggling.
how does that feel to you? It's like be okay now, right here. What is what comes up when you say that?
I think I'm struggling to just be okay in general. Like just to say, just accepting. I guess that makes sense. Just accepting that I am where I am because that's where I'm meant to be, and there's probably lessons that I need to learn. I'm struggling. My ego's probably struggling where I was in better places before, and now I'm being humbled to be put into lower places, um, which also is an extreme failure in my eyes for myself. I wouldn't say the same thing for other people, but for myself, I would definitely say it's a failure. And I'm struggling with just being okay where I am
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, so a challenge with so you were talking about this earlier, the adult self up here, the inward facing feeling, that can have a really hard time with sliding backwards and needing to humble, because it's like, well, this doesn't feel like who I want to be. Or like, I'm not where I want to be yet, so this doesn't feel right. And it can have a negative impact on your ego when it's like, no, I'm not doing this. This doesn't feel right. Because I want to be at this next level.
Right. Or like stepping back, being on a higher level and having to step back. That's where it really hurts because I know I've been there before and I've been there consistently. And now all of a sudden something happened and changed where I feel like I'm set back 4 years prior. And
Yeah.
it hurts to know that you've put so much time and effort into building something and then it's almost like all of it is gone and you have to start over.
Yeah. And how does that feel for you to be experiencing that?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't feel like I can trust myself
Yep.
because I can't trust any decision I make now
Yep.
because I feel like, well, the decision you made last got you here. So who knows if you actually are making the right step or not. I can't trust my emotions. I can't trust my decisions. I can't trust anything. So I feel like I've been letting go of a lot of things and just almost isolating and secluding myself, which is not typical for me.
Yeah, and not trusting yourself is one of the worst places you can be because it's really hard to talk about. It's like you don't know which way is up and which way is down. And it's like, is this decision going to lead me here, like to the next place, or is it going to be another bad decision like what I've been doing so far?
Mm-hmm.
And
For
that,
the only way I can, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that can feel really maddening to be in, and it makes sense if you're withdrawing that you're doing that. So I just want to tell you there's nothing wrong with what you're doing right now, because if you don't trust yourself, it's natural to want to withdraw, especially for introverts.
Yeah. When I'm having to make, the problem is I'm having to make a lot of big, huge decisions right now, all at the same time. So, because of that need of trust that I no longer have for myself, I'm having to reach out to minimum 5 different people, different types and personalities and backgrounds to tell them this is what I'm going through. What should I do? Or if I did this, do you think that would be good or not? Like, five different people, and then I see what they all say, and if there's a common theme going on, then I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to go with because they said so.
And is that working
And
for
it's no longer intuitive.
you?
It's more relying on others, and I don't like relying on others, but that's the only thing I have right now to go with.
Yeah. So a secret, do you want to know something you can do about the trusting yourself with
Please.
things? Sure. So when people don't trust themselves with something, it's often their inner parent right here needing to step up and start exploring
Mm-hmm.
options of you can do with this. So like if you have a big decision, what are all the different options? You can reach out to a bunch of people. You can try making a decision. What else is out there for you to help make the decision, and keep looking for options. Keep looking for whether you want to do this or not. Like that, do this or not, great, but like what information do you need in the meantime? And your 10-year-old historian here has been really helpful for you in the past because you have made all these decisions to get to where you are right now. And so you've been successful. So you know how to do that. It's not like you've won the lottery by chance. And then now you have this money and then it's gone. And you're like, what do I do again? Because that was chance. The cool thing about getting to a certain place is you've learned certain lessons. It's just tapping into those lessons. And if those aren't working for you anymore, keep knowing that you're resilient enough to keep going. How does that feel for you?
It makes sense. and it's comforting. I have to keep actively reminding myself that all the time.
Yeah, and
It's exhausting.
yeah, and when you don't trust yourself, or when you see yourself going through the process of I don't know what to do here, what do I do? Like, slow down. Like, first of all, do you recognize when you're doing that?
Sometimes.
Yeah, it's tough. But if you can recognize that you're doing that, or I've got this big decision coming up, what do I need to do to prepare for that? Like, how can I slow down, look for other options, gather more information, and then also go back into my past and see what I've done before? That can just help you stabilize a little bit more, rather than going like, I've got this decision, what can I do other than yes or no, reach out to 10 people and be angry at myself because I'm not where I once was.
Slowing down is extremely difficult for me, which is something that I'm learning to do now. It's just my brain never works at a slow pace, and I feel like I'm always chasing it.
Yep.
But I definitely do see now the importance and value in slowing down because my body tends to physically give me reasons to slow down when I'm overdoing it. It's
Yes.
like, okay, you're done. Go
Your
stay home
body,
and be sick before.
your body tells you things that you're not aware of yet. It's like, oh, I need to stop, body. Thank you.
This was a theme for me with some skin inflammation that I've never had before this year. So that was very eye-opening to me, where my body's screaming at me basically, you need to stop. You
Yep.
need to look at this and address it and stop.
Yep.
And that took me, it took me months to finally address it.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how the body and the brain don't really know what's going on. My brain is lagging usually when it comes to these things.
Yeah. It's aware maybe in some levels too, subconscious and unconscious, and then consciously it'll show up when it's right. When it's right for you, unfortunately. So is
Right.
that helpful for the trusting yourself piece? Do you want to work through something, a decision, or an example of a decision?
Oh, like an example.
Mhm.
Let's see. Um, let's just keep it super super light. I'll give you the lightest example that I have. I have 3 children and I homeschool them. And 2 of them are thriving and one of them is testing my patience. So I I don't know if I have what it takes to muster through with it and be successful with her and make sure that she gets the knowledge, attention, and time that she needs. Um, we're both thriving mentally with this situation, but I feel like with all the other stuff going on in my life, I might be neglecting her.
Mhm.
And the decision to put her back in public school is is an option. It's not the best option right now, but it's like a plan C. Um, and she's she's refusing that completely because it'll change her school that she's used to. But also, if I mention if we really can't figure out a way to work this out, you're going to have to go back to public. And she does not want to do that, but also she does not want to commit some time into studying at home.
Yeah.
Granted, she's young, but still, like I don't know how to navigate that because I'm the only sole parent that is taking care of this mental load and the whole entire educational load responsibility um, is on my shoulders. So
Yep.
I'm just trying to figure out how the heck am I supposed to do this?
Yeah. And you're saying no, figure out, and think a lot. and that comes probably your thinking process is probably trying to figure this out. How is this feeling for you? Like, are there any gut feelings for you? Like, what's important that makes you feel like you at the end of the day, or how is this aligning with your values?
Um, I feel like it should work. I feel like it's not going to be easy, but everything worth doing is going to have some hard work involved. I feel like if I can get to a slow enough pace in my life to intentionally work in the time and the attention needed for this to be successful, um, I'm just combating her own struggle with focus and ADHD and all the other things that I already suffer from. So
Yeah.
I understand where she's coming from, but I also don't like it because it's hard. So if internally I would like to keep homeschooling
Got it.
because it's much less stress in the mornings. She can wake up whenever she wants. She eats like her focus is really in the afternoon and evening is when we sit down and start school. And most days now that it's dark, it's I'm home and I can be there and I can do the things.
Yep.
Um, but I'm also busy and
Yep.
I have meetings and I have work and I have things to do. So I'm just trying to figure out internally, I would love to keep doing this physically, realistically. I don't know if I can.
Yep. And then we'll switch to the options here. What are all the options that you can see right now with that all potentials? You have public school, you have keep going. Are there any other options that you could see in between?
There is an option for her to join a 2 to 3 day a week type of outdoor school. There's a financial cost to it, which is why I'm hesitating a little bit. But if I am able to bring her there, that gives me the assurance that she is learning. She performs better for other people than she performs for me, which is typical child mother relationship. But I would at least know that okay, we are flexible, we are controlling our education, but also I know that if I drop her off 2 3 days a week here, that she is getting and retaining some things within her learning abilities, and that would probably make me feel a little bit better. Um, I guess there's options for co-ops and other people. Like sometimes my friends that also homeschool, they take her with them on their zoo school trips and all the smaller things that they do also. So collaboration is something that's really nice. I think I just need to be more focused on my time and the intentionality of it and planning, just actually planning and getting the things done the way I said
Yeah.
we would. But like we try to do when it's just us, we try to go to a library and change the scenery or go and another like coffee shop or something just to get a treat and add some like enchantment to it and make it feel fun. I can get work done. She can get work done. She's just very just easily distracted, and I have very limited time.
Yeah. And then checking in with your 10-year-old inner child, the historian piece. What have they seen that has worked in the past for you? And what are they seeing that has not worked in the past for this situation?
Um, that I plan and I plan and I plan and I think I can do things and then I end up not being able to do them. Or being unrealistic about my time or unrealistic about the amount of things that I juggle.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Yep. Yep. That 10-year-old of yours can be very wise because it can look at this inner parent of yours that likes to do all this stuff and it can go like, here we go again.
we're signing up for 8 things when we only have time for like 4. So this is a really good part of you to check in with and say, like, should I do this next thing? And this might kind of roll its eyes at you and go like, no. And the INFPs who master their 10-year-old inner child here, the historian, can feel so much more balanced and so much more grounded because they're checking in with this part of them rather than this part feeling totally unseen and then just keep going and going and going and going and being exhausted. And then they know that they've got all this stuff. So if you can check in with this part of you once a week, once a month, and just say what's working, what's not, this can help you feel more solid and help you be okay with scheduling rather than just being like, here we go again. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
How does that part feel with what I've just said, that 10-year-old inner child of yours?
I mean, it's like giving me permission to just listen to them and trust it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And this can help you trust yourself a little more as well.
Yeah. And saying no to myself, which is hard. I can say no to other people, but it's very hard for me to say no to myself. So that'll probably be the no partner.
Yes. And it's so wide.
No.
And it's really hard too, because I do this, like my adult self gets, my inner parent comes up with an idea and my adult self is like, that's so much fun. And it can feel really exciting. And then like you're off to the races. And then it's like, it's okay for you to get wrapped up in this as you're learning this and starting to see yourself doing this. It's just maybe a sign that you need to pause and check in and see, like, I understand this is exciting. I understand this feels really fun and it has all these possibilities, but at the same time, is this actually going to help me get where I want to go? And that's where that beauty of that child comes in, because it can go like, no. Or it can say, I don't know, let's find this out. Or it can say, everything we've done in the past has been a failure with this, and then that's a sign that it might be triggered and you need to like comfort this part of you. So
Yeah.
that can be
as 10-year-old, so wise.
For the INFP, it can be very wise. They're wise on every part, but for the INFP in particular, it's really important to wrangle that pioneer in for them and make them feel more stable, secure. So how are you feeling right now?
A little bit overwhelmed, but also it's nice to know these things, because then when I think about stuff, I can argue with myself about it and talk myself out of some things, or at least understand why they're happening.
Yep, beautiful. Do you have any final questions for today?
So when does this little 3-year-old come in handy, like in a positive, good way?
Sure.
What do I do with that?
Sure. This part is really good at getting things done, like getting tasks done, making sure things are accomplished, but it can only do that for like 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes max, and then it's done. And then it like needs a break to be put away for a while. And it's really, that's what the part of you, that's what it enjoys. So it can feel really fun for you to do like put things together or make a really nice plan going forward. But doing that all day is going to be too much. Doing that for an hour straight is going to be too much. So just giving this space, it's like you kind of have to look over this part of you and say, you've got like 15 minutes, let's just get shit done. And then it can just crank things out for you. And then it's like, okay, we're done. Let's go do something that feels good to me right now.
That makes so much sense.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that then. I could definitely see that. And like it's really interesting, because now I look at this and I'm just really curious how ADHD plays into this, because most of what I go through, I feel like we're just mainly ADHD symptoms or traits, but removing that, it's the same type of personality traits that are here for the most part. So I just don't know how they both connect, if any at all, or they seem very intertwined.
My guess is a lot of your ADHD, and I don't have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with it, so I don't have actual experience with it. My guess is if you get really good at balancing your 10-year-old and your inner parent, because it's usually just a sign that your inner parent is probably doesn't have any reins on it. So it's just like going, just distracting you, because maybe that's what it does to feel safe. As it gets better and not doing that and like feeling okay with like, we'll go find solutions at certain points. And then I might be bored a little bit because I'm not going out and having that next hit of the new idea and going. That can maybe help you pair in that ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My gut is saying that it's totally possible. But I don't know. But I'm also someone who can put magic with people. And some people are like, oh, you're diagnosed with this. And I'm like, well, there might be something else that's causing that. Rather than you're going to be stuck with this for the rest of your life. I don't really like that stuff because I tend to have found other ways to do things and then get rid of the things that I don't want. So that's my perspective.
I see that. When you were explaining the 3-year-old, something I say often is that my anxiety is my business partner. And that's when my anxiety rises, that's when I get stuff done. So that's probably me just activating that 3-year-old, be like that I'm actually partnering with my 3-year-old inner child to get stuff done. And that's when I'm very high alert, high emotion, just like, if I don't do this right now, this is never going to get done and we have to do it now.
Yeah.
That's how I've been operating.
Yeah. And INFPs can take a while to get motivated. So sometimes they need that stress of like, it's now or never. Are we doing this or not? Mm-hmm. to get going. So it can be really helpful for you. So I'm not saying you will ever be that person to do things like 2-4 months in advance, but a little bit of stress can come and motivate you to get going. So what I'm saying is, I feel like what you're saying is yes, that's my answer to that. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You're asking great questions.
I don't know. I think I just have to sit with this a little bit and process it. I tend to process things a little slowly, but as of right now, I feel like the things that I struggle with have most likely been addressed one way or the other with this graph that you have here, and it makes sense. I feel like, because I do feel like I'm 4 different people, and now this is why. This is why. So this was very helpful.
Nice. I'm so glad you got something out of it. What's the biggest lesson that you got for today?
That my inner children are trying to control me.
Everyone's does. Everyone's does. Yeah, some people.
But yeah, like
their inner children. Go for it.
Like now, when I feel like that inner voice telling me, but can you really do that though? That's probably the 10-year-old. And when it's saying, okay, you really, really, really need to get up, it's probably a 3-year-old screaming for a snack or something.
Yeah, it's like, hey.
And that should probably not push those voices away and just actually listen to them for a little bit.
Yeah, I had another INFP client, and she was like, I keep calling myself a lazy slob. I'm like, I don't think it's you calling yourself a lazy slob. I think it's this 3-year-old calling yourself a lazy slob. It's like, are we doing something? So
Yeah, sure.
nice.
Yeah.
So glad you got something out of it. Any final comments, questions, concerns?
No, I think I'm good.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, session 1 of 3. And we will talk to you on session 2.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time.